Three, two, one, ready to go. Wickerson Studios. I'm going to backtrack a little bit after this video and go back into some very creative geometries, and I may use Python nodes a little bit, but I want to show you kind of culmination after about a year and a half of looking at coding again in my life, where I've gotten to and how I can wrap my head around it. And it's a kind of triangle of Rhino into Grasshopper into Python to then have scripts that influence Rhino again. I pulled this one specifically. You can take a look at the Rhino window and its renderings that I like to do, traditionally stay with in these videos. Grasshopper is a very small script, but within it, besides the piping of what the script says, it's pretty simple. Starts with a curve, input a curve. It then does a recursive tree form. Pretty basic script. It's not mine. It's taken from Mode Labs, I think in 2012. Here's the script that goes against that and with that. So you basically could see it there, freeze and copy that script. I should probably move it over just slightly so you can see the end of it. It differs a little bit from the 2012 version in the sense that these rotation domains don't require an added .min and .max, and you'll find that if you watch their demos. The page that I pulled most of this from and is a 14 series video right here on Mode Labs, which is absolutely amazing for introducing Python scripting to Grasshopper. I'm definitely going to watch some more contemporary ones, but the main thing is to take the knowledge out of these 13, 14 videos and apply it to creative things that you may come up with. So I'm just going to show a little breakdown of this. It's not too hard. Well, it's not for the beginner, but if you've gotten into Rhino and you've figured out what you've done, what I have here is I'm going to grab my visibility and take these off for a second, go into my Rhino script, input a curve, which is right here, and I'll probably do just perspective, and I'm going to go back into shaded. Once you've input that curve into Grasshopper, and I can hide that curve, so there's the Grasshopper curve, you're going to bring it in as anything you bring in on these, and you can add as many as you want in the Python script and remove them. They must match the inputs and outputs over here. You can leave your output here, which is really good for actually seeing problems that occur when you run your script. And there's none occurring right now, but they'd also show up at the bottom of this script file here. Whatever shows up here when you run your script will come out in that output as well as text. So I'm just going to leave that off because I don't really need it unless I'm debugging. And then I've basically piped the lines that come out of it. And they're informed by the rotation domains, the number of branches, and the levels. The key thing to remember with the Python, unless you've specified what all your variables are, integers, booleans, floats, or strings, you're going to have to go in here and right-click on things and say the type int, and you see this one's set as an integer. Down to here, the branches, that one is set, type int is set to an integer as well. And sometimes you can get away with S start line. You can go in here and see the type int said that it was a Grasshopper GHDoc object when geometry. So no type was specified in that one. You could say it was curve down here. Oh, I did specify it was a curve. You could also say that it's this geometry, and it probably would work the same. But since my script's working, I always want to go in there and specify exactly what I might be pulling out. Otherwise, I have to be careful in my script what to write. So if you've got a pretty good way of working and building these forms in Grasshopper, just stick with what you have. But once you get good enough at modeling that, you're going to want to do some things that don't require loops and other things that that it's easier to write script. And you start getting into these basic importing libraries of random and maths. And the script context was new for me, but definitely you're going to have to import Rhino script syntax as RS to make your file a little smaller to look at. And here it is. The script runs through basically a looping or iteration and calls upon the functions. And then one thing to remember about Grasshopper is you've got to bring it back to Grasshopper to do something with in the end. So I would say watch these videos if you're interested at all. This series going through here, they are actually fantastic. They start with an intro to scripting. And I think this company's out since 2017. But there are so many new Python scripts, and if you want to get into it a little farther, you've done some Rhino script, certainly through interfacing with the Rhino. You've been following Rhino scripts up in here. It's not much to start to turn it into Python script. And then you may take an interest in the maths and realize that you want to get into C++, which would be pretty cool programming, and that's what one fellow's doing that I find very interesting. Japanese fellow, Unikoro Horikawa. I probably said his name wrong. I've reached out to him through LinkedIn and other means, but to be staying with videos and tutorials that are happening to the day. I think the last one I was looking at that he was making was on the 9th or 10th of May, which was like yesterday or 2 days ago. And I feel the need to know more about programming. Um, the better you get with this, the more you learn the foundations, the better geometry you can start bringing into here, because this is just based on a curve, and actually not even a bendy curve, just a straight line. So I think when I start applying these, they're going to be pretty wicked. And I was doing that last year a little bit with this whirlwind of wheelbarrows I was generating. And you're going to end up starting to have a conversation with people that may be dealing robotics. I know Carl Singline's really influenced me, and it's been very exciting to watch their work. But to bring this into uh, not development for anything in general, but into creative art coding. I think there's a future in creative coding within the creative writing programs at our art school. I think once you allow people to play with this and they realize that all the time spent doing a single iteration in Rhino, say it was rendering out all of these things, you can see I've changed it from the last form. If you're going to take the time to make this bloody thing in Rhino, then why wouldn't you take the time to write the script and then follow that basic scripting mantra that you do it and then you have many iterations to follow. So if you're into looping or iterations or recursion, this is definitely a nice example. And once again, I want to plug that program Mode Labs, which I've learned a lot through. And to run through these 14 videos will take more than a couple hours, but you will have to have knowledge and interface skills with Rhino, Python, and Grasshopper. And it's pretty basic Python scripting, nothing you can pick up in a few months at most. But then how are you going to apply it? And what is the reason why you're doing it? So I'm very excited about that. I'm excited about where the future is leading through all of this work, and we'll just see how it ends up. Thank you for watching. Bye.